Welcome. Welcome back, everyone, to the best sim racing series on the planet, SRF Weekend Warriors, presented by RaceVoice, live on... I'm your host, Jim Hodgson. Alongside me on commentary, it's Jack Kanan, known internationally as the Irish Snoop Dogg, and of course, it's Jonathan Johnny Grabs Grabowski. So, Jack, we're back once again in the SRFs. What can our drivers expect today from the concrete canyon of Long Beach Street Circuit?
Well, I think we can expect, as we always do every week, nose-to-tail racing the whole way through. It's kind of a tighter circuit for these cars as well. You know, you've got one long straight here on the front straight. Of course, when you come out of that last corner, you've got a long run down towards turn one. Not a hell of a lot of place to actually overtake here, but I'm sure these guys will find some space to do it anyway.
Absolutely. Of course, now, it is a straight. You're absolutely right about that. But as we can see, we're riding on board with Winner here. It's not entirely straight. And the braking zone, he'll brake right about now at 300. This turn one is just absolutely deceptive. And then we go in here to the fountain, which is, again, a tricky area. So even though the circuit is tight and it's relatively flat, not a whole lot of elevation change, you know, drivers could very easily lose the car here if they get on the power too early. So it's it's kind of a deceptively technical.
It is really, really technical, and I know, of course, these cars are slower than most cars you would normally drive on the platform, maybe apart from the Mazdas, but you still got to be pretty confident in throwing it into the corners right here, because there is absolutely zero runoff right here. The problem you've got is if you make a mistake, there's a concrete wall to greet you in every single corner. Turn one's going to be especially difficult. Cold brakes, cold tires, and you've got to trust that the guys in front are going to stop right for you. But think right where Austin Winner is about to come through here now, this left-hander into the last corner, expect a lot of trouble right around here.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly we will expect to see some trouble there in the hairpin we just went through. Hopefully we don't have any track corking incidents. Of course, most racing series who race here have seen one or two, even the big boys. Let's not, well, we won't call them out just yet, will we? But anyway, we are about 7 minutes into practice now, so just about 3 minutes to go, and we'll shortly have a grid to show you, and we'll definitely have a great race here at Long Beach. I'm personally through track, even though it's hard, and I've never had very good results here.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great little circuit when you hook it all together. I mean, the races that I've experienced around here have all been in kind of single-seaters, F3, US F2000 around here. It can get very, very attritional, especially with the damage model on those single-seaters. But I think these cars can take a bit more of a beating, so I think it's going to be a real spectacle to watch these Ford racers head around this weekend. Of course, who needs the Fast 9 qualifying, eh?
Right. Well, yes, indeed. But we do need points, so let's have a look at our season points. Now, we will start with Spec 1. In the Spec 1 standings, you can see our man Austin Winner leads those points, and then it's Forens Arabian and Bobby West in second and third, although they do have the same points according to the graphic I'm looking at here. So they possibly share second place. I'm sure that'll get sorted out. We, of course, have drop races left to go in the season, and this is race 10 of 12, so plenty of racing left to go. They're followed, of course, by Jörg Manny and Hugh Haycox in fifth. So lots of the season left to go. And in Spec 2, it is Simon Mayer at the top of the results. A little bit surprising to me, but apparently just edging Jean Pereira out by 1 point. And then it's Ian, followed by Paolo Breme, down with 367 points. And the Masters standings, it is Kenneth Batley in the lead with 446 points, just 1 point ahead of Antonio Race. We just saw Race's car a moment. There he is, traversing your screen. And he's followed by Tom Gradwell and our man Steve Ray, series organizer. Thank you so much, Steve Ray, for all your hard work. And of course, it's Bob Kern in fifth. So, lots of battles will be going on all over the track today. We will be frantic, although thrilled, to make sure that we try to touch on all of them as practice is winding down. We should shortly have today's grid to tell you all about.
Yeah, we're about 30 seconds away from that, and yeah, Spec 2 and Masters separated by a point each, so really tight at the top right there. Spec 1 is an absolute landslide at the moment for Austin Winner, but I mean, anything could still happen in this championship, so he obviously has to keep his head down, keep himself consistent. He said last time he's not really thinking about the championship, he's just here to race, and if he crashes while racing and not thinking about the championship, he'll prefer that than keeping it safe, so to speak. So Austin Winner is out to race, not to think about the championship, which is always a great one to think about. And he should get on really well. We were at Okayama last time of Suzuka last time, and we now have a little bit of a tighter one coming up. But the grid about to come up for you.
Yes, and here he is at the top of the tower, at the top of the results. It is Austin Winner, joined by Steven Elson in P2. A great qualifying result for Elson. They're followed by Antonio Race. We were just speaking about him a moment ago, who's got Dominic Barreau for company on the second row. In the third row, it's David Gaspers. A little bit of a surprise to see him all the way down in fifth. He's joined by Ian Gibson on row 3. And then it's Maurizio Naselli, also surprising, joined by Simon Mayer on the fourth row. And then it's Josh Arnold and Dan Sandro in 9th and 10th, Hugh Haycox and Michael Dobeck in 11th and 12th. On down from there, of course, it's Stephen Mitchell and Adam Bradshaw in 13th and 14th, followed by Stevie Ray and Chris Murakami, two of our Masters drivers. There will be duking it out in 15th. Geehan and Ken Batley in 17th and 18th. And then it's Andrew Benna and Flavio Andalo, followed by Miro Hrasky, Mike Shaw, Jeff Cantor, and Tom Gradwell in 24th. In 25th position, it's Tim Van Dormelen, followed by Bobby West, Paul Jackson, Brian D. Short, Dominic Eisenberg, Jeremy Lewis, Ian Haycox, Louis Verloop, Joost Simpkins, Jeff Fritcher, Peter Mizarek, and Andres Bertoni. It still tickles me that Ian Haycox changed his team name to the Elder because he is the older of the two Haycoxes. He's followed by, it's David Swig in 37th, followed by David Bohm, Samuel Dick, Bob Kern, Sergei Aksenchev, and Jerry McAreevy, the singing Scotsman, in 42nd place. I wonder if McAreevy will be taking the start. Well, we'll all be taking the start very shortly as Winner leads us around the hairpin with Naselli alongside him. Interesting that the results were somewhat different than that, the grid I just read, but never mind. We'll figure it all out here on the racing surface as we are now racing with Naselli in the lead, followed by Haycox in a drag race with Winner, and those guys are followed closely by Gaspers, Bohm, Fritcher, and the whole gang. This is going to be one serious turn one, guys, on these cold tires and cold tracks, and Winner has swerved and will now be in the runoff area at turn one. A terrible start for Austin Winner.
That's exactly what we were talking about. People were going to miss the braking point on the cold brakes, and he completely misjudged the braking. Thankfully, there's a runoff area there with a 3-point turn, get back going again. But a disastrous start for Austin Winner. Hugh Haycox goes to the lead, and Maurizio Naselli holds second, and David Boom is in P3. Spinner in the background there. That was Dominic Biro, I think, who started really high up, and he's now spun the car around on the exit of that right-hander, and he has managed to get going back going again, thankfully, and hasn't managed to collect anybody there in the 33, down in 22nd place right now, so he's going to have a lot of work to do to get back up to the front runners. But it is Hugh Haycox who leads this one. I tell you what, qualifying, we're actually the Masters Series drivers. They were the best performers overall in this one, but hasn't been a great one in the start of the race as we go through Haycox, Naselli, and Gaspers.
Sorry to speak over you, Jack. That was just Bohm losing his car. And now he's going to plug up the hairpin, just running behind Fritcher there. That's Dobeck in a little bit caught up in Mayer, and it looks like Race's car. Yes, the 906 machine there to the left. I see West and Shook and Bertoni pounding along as well. There's Mayer, of course, in the Jägermeister car, the number 308 machine, I believe, running currently in 12th overall. So fastest lap of the race so far for Haycox. He's, of course, in lead of the field at a 1:39. There's Murakami battling with Van Dormelen there, and Elson in the 56 machine. They're all going 3 wide down this front straight. You know, I hate to have predicted the future there for the car that went around. Oh, here's cars 2 wide into the fountain. That's Murakami and Dormelen there. But it is so easy to lose the car. This turn we're going to see Van Dormelen take just now off camber, and you also lose a little bit of elevation there on that turn, and it seems like you could just fling it, you know, through there, but the rear of the car gets so light, it's so easy to have a big wreck there.
Yeah, it really is. You're treading a fine line all the time through those corners, and Naselli and all those guys running really close to the wall through there. But they've kind of made their own group up front now. Haycox, Naselli, and Gaspers have built a gap over Fritcher and Boom. We're looking at Boom right now. He's chasing after Fritcher for that position. Arnold and Rice are just behind right there. Hraski tucked in behind the Ninos as they head through the right-hander. On board with him now as we head through the last sector of Long Beach. Tricky sector, this one. Long left-hander into the break zone for the really tight hairpin. Taking a wide line in, maybe a bit wide there. Actually, he's going to lose it. Oh, very, very close to himself and Dobek on the exit there for Miro Razki, who just got a little bit out of shape. Bertoni takes advantage of Dobek getting a little bit out of shape, and he will slot in long right-hander heading towards turn number 1. But I think this is actually the most spread out we've seen the field all season, Jim. The top 3 are away, and then it's 4 seconds back to the next group.
Yeah, well, you know, they're missing Winner and Bohm, who both had incidents on lap 1. Otherwise, they would have been, they were running in that front group. Bohm had that little incident a little bit farther down the track. Here is Bohm once again, mixing it up there with the number 64 machine of Prasky. And they've got Bertoni and Dobek and Fritcher all over the rear of their cars. Ooh, big slide there from Prasky, seems to me. Bohm's car's taken a lot of damage. Oh, boy, this is Long Beach, isn't it? You know, there's not a lot of, really not a lot of room, although the streets, this Bertoni is going to make a little move down the inside of Prasky. His car looks undamaged, so he may be able to make that stick. But you do often contact the wall when you're racing at Long Beach, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. There's another car crabbing there as well. So there's a attritional 43. That's Fritcher. That was the car that was crabbing there down the straight. Who's keeping going. Yeah, he's got damage on his car as well. So I can only assume there was a bit of a shunt in towards turn 1. So the 43 crabbing back towards the pit lane, tucked it behind them there as the cars try to get their way through, trying to negotiate the traffic. Else is trying to find his way past these stricken cars as they head through the last 2 sectors. This is the Fritcher going very deep. This is very tricky for these guys with damaged cars. So there's the, they'll head to pit lane, of course. The pit entry very tricky in the way they go. And Boom and the other Fritcher as well, so close together on the way in. But it's actually quite wide, that pit entry, so you can do that. But Boom tried everything to gain any advantage he could on the way into pit lane. But that's spread the field now even more. Haycox and Naselli away out front. Gasper's 1.4 back, and then it's a good gap back to the rest of the field. But these guys, as always, very close together.
Fritcher's car was turned to like 2 o'clock as he's driving down the road, and it didn't help to have Bohm give him a little shove into pit lane there. Of course, these drivers will have a fast repair. They'll take advantage of that, I'm sure. We're looking here at Stevie Ray in a battle with Gibson. There's Gibson's machine there, the black and white car, with Stevie Ray in the RaceVoice livery, the number 911 machine, all over the rear of his car. Great battle going on. I just want to tell you, viewers, that as our timing screens, we do see sort of yellow and orange colors when cars are close together. And in this series, as it is the case right now, we see a lot of yellow and orange because there are so many battles going on all over the track. Oh dear, as we see cars contacting the wall there. Yep, just got a little bit overcooked. Is that Haycox the Elder?
That's one way of doing it. Yeah, that's Ian Haycox. He got looped around when a car went into the barrier in front of him. He's now got to try and get a tricky way through. This is Michael Shaw, who was already caught up in it as well. You see the front end damage. Stevie Ray trying to find his way through on him. Just behind as they head into the hairpin. He goes wide. Stevie Ray will get up underneath him now as they head down the straight, but not quite able to get the run out of the hairpin. You really need the momentum through there to really for it to be able to capitalize. And Gibson and way down towards turn number 1, but momentum the key thing. But it seems like every single car has some kind of ding in it or a little bit of a bump on it. But apart from these two, they seem to be pretty clean.
Well, it is often that way. There's a little bit of damage there on Haycox's machine. He must have taken just the slightest of taps in the rear of his car. But Long Beach is just that way. I mean, you're gonna probably contact the wall at some point, and the racing is so close. Especially, you were just mentioning the hairpin a moment ago, which we'll see again when Haycox, Naselli, and Gaspers get there, as Naselli has a little look down the inside there. I don't think he was quite close enough to make that happen, but the hairpin is so tough because first, as you mentioned, you've got this long left-hander where you're decelerating, and you really have to feather the throttle, and then this hairpin and you have to pick your turn-in point and really commit to it. And if you let it go too far, you're going to get in the wall at the track out, and you can easily clip the wall on the inside as well. So, but it's, as you said, so critical for your momentum for the rest of the entire lap.
Yeah, and that's been the key point across this series. These cars rely on momentum. They don't have the power to gain back speed quickly, so you need to keep the speed through the corners more than anywhere. Miro Razki's peeled into pit lane now. You can see him on the timing tower. He's come in probably to repair that front damage. Quite a lot of it on the front of that car, so he's come in to get that repaired. As there is Kenneth Bathley, who is down in 14th place at the moment, but still running quite well within his class, of course. And of course his own one. He's of course the leader of the Masters standings at the moment by a singular point over Antonio Rice, but he of course is not up with Rice at the moment. Rice is running really nicely in the top 5. He's leading the Masters class as well, and yeah, both of them running very, very well. It's actually, I believe, Chris Murakami is currently second in the Masters, but there's your leader, Antonio Rice in the Masters class. He's actually putting some pressure on Josh Arnold for P4.
Yes, indeed he is. Well done. We do have a lot of battles going on all over the track. It looks like we've got a battle on track between Haycox and Fritchard running currently. They're running all the way down in 36th and 35th. Let's see. Haycox and Fritchard. There they are. There is Fritchard with Haycox all over the rear. So a very close nose-to-tail battle there. Those two cars have been, well, they're embattled in more ways than one. But moving up the timing tower, there's another great battle, it looks like, going on between Benna, Gehan, and West. West just passed Gehan for 28th overall. Those guys are tearing it up, as are. There they are. That's West in the lead there. As well, like there's quite a battle going on between Kern, Mitchell, and Cantor, running 25th and 26th. There they are. Oh dear, there might be some damage there. Looks like the 944 machine. That was West, who just dived into the pit lane there. Or dove, if you prefer. So just trying to get back through the timing tower and touch on all these battles we have going on all over the place. Eisenberg and Shaw running 18 and 19. Looks like they've got a battle going on. Here we're seeing that's Bradshaw. And there is Eisenberg in the 475 machine. His car looking somewhat the worse for wear, with Steve Ray in the RaceVoice machine there at just the third car in that train, which gives me an excellent list. And thank you so much to them for being proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the Weekend Warrior Spec Racer Ford Racing Series. Take your driving to the next level with on-track audible performance alerts with RaceVoice and RaceVoiceSIM. You can hear miles per hour, turn entry and exit speeds, upshift alerts, and other performance metrics which are selected and configured by you. Go faster with the speed of voice. Plus, Weekend Warriors get 50% off annual sim pricing using the promo code of WW50. So check them out at www.racevoice.com. As we're watching the battle, we're riding on board with Naselli here through turn 1, all over the rear of Haycox's car, and once again into the fountain.
Got really close on the brakes into the fountain there, didn't Naselli? But David Gaspers, tell you what, he was 6/10 of a second faster than both of these guys on that previous lap, and he's dragged himself onto the back of that train. There he is, in third car in train, and they've got a big old gap back to Josh Arnold, 8.6 seconds back to that car. And they're pretty comfortable. So the top 3, and remember, of course, there is a mandatory pit stop in this series as well. Gasper's getting very close to the back of Naselli as they head into the right-hander. A bit of a slide from Haycox, and that was a tap on the barrier. A little rub of the barrier from Gasper. He's got a lovely run out there as he heads towards the right-hand. He's going to have a go on the inside right now. Lots of momentum carried on the inside, and he led him through there. Came off the accelerator and was more than happy to just let Gaspers move into second place. But Gasper is the man on the move at the moment.
Yeah, well, we certainly know him as a very good driver. We've seen him, mixing it up at the front of the field and winning, of course. Plenty of time, so it was a surprise to see him where he was in it, but I'm not sure what was going on with the grid anyway, so never mind. He's definitely in P2 now in the number 17 machine. His team name, the Winner Schnitzels, because he races endurance races with Austin Winner and some of the other guys. Here is a battle going on between Batley Short. I think that was just Mizarek in the number 321 machine who took that place away from Batley. Mizarek really running well today, as are all these drivers. And this is a mix of cars here. So quickly, let's talk about Spec 2. So we have 3 classes on track today, although the cars all look the same. We have, of course, Spec 1, and then Spec 2 are cars with numbers over 200. So, for example, here's Simpkins in the 377 machine. So he is currently leading Spec 2, followed by Mizarek. You can just see him on the rear. We'll see him come around turn 1 in just a moment. Mizarek in the 321 machine. We saw him just a second ago. And these guys are joined. There he is. These guys are joined and a bit surrounded by the Masters drivers. Race, of course, leading the Masters in the 906 machine, currently running 5th overall. And then it's down to Murakami in the 901 machine and Batley in 922. So race is going on all over the place.
Yeah, and every spec is mixing it up with each other, but there's also those mini battles that are going on for the respective championships. And Masters and Spec 2 are incredibly close, but this particular race could really close up the Spec 1 standings, as Austin Winner is nowhere to be seen at the moment on the timing tower. He's not even there, so it's a big opportunity for the guys in Spec 1 to kind of get a bit closer, because he has a big old lead. There's Austin Winner. Florence Arabian is also not here racing this weekend, as far as we can see. So Hugh Haycox is his big opportunity to try and gain some points. He's 5th in the championship on 500. Maybe even get himself 2nd in the title if he can keep up this pace. But he's got some really fast guys behind him. He's got to try and keep David Gaspers and Maurizio Naselli behind him as we head to the 15-minute mark. They've got to take a pit stop as well. Of course, pit strategy always very important in this series. And we saw what can happen if you just misjudge it slightly. Hugh Haycox knows all about that.
Well, Jack, it looks like Winner just got out of the car and went on home. He does not appear to be running. So it looks like he just gave it up for and folded it up and went home.
Which is very unusual.
Oh yeah.
For Austin Winner, we always, whatever happened, obviously was quite a large incident, and he's packed up and decided not to take any. He will not score points this weekend, Austin Winner. That might be one of the first times that he won't score points. He's got a humongous lead in the championship, over nearly 200 points, about 180 points he's clear at the moment in the championship. Florence Arabian, Bobby West tied on points in 2nd and 3rd. Right there, Jörg Mani is on 566, but Hugh Haycock's on 564. He's the man in the lead of this race at the moment. Bertoni is just behind him in the standings as well. Fritcher's in there, Boehm's in there too. So these guys have got a big opportunity, gain some points. Antonio Rice, if he finishes where he is, he'll regain the lead of the championship that he lost last week.
Yeah, he had not a great week last week, but certainly, as you said, running well in 5th as we see them come down the main drag to turn 1. Good looking livery there for Race as he heads into the fountain. I'm sure he'd like to take that place from Arnold, and no doubt they'll be mixing it up, these 3 drivers here, as this battle continues to develop. Anyway, looking here at Hrasky with Fritcher and Gibson just ahead, all going through the hairpin, just narrowly avoided contacting one another. It looks like Hrasky has been used his fast repair, as has Gibson, but they already both have damage again.
Yeah, it looks like some rear end damage on all those cars. Don't think that shouldn't affect them too much compared to what the front end damage would normally do, but they've carried on anyway. There's a little dink in the rear of Hrasky's car, but there's definitely more pronounced
one.
I
think, going around.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's for Loop, with the front end completely gone off that car as well in the 32. He trying to rejoin that awkward place to rejoin, but for Loop, looping it around, so to speak, in turn number 1. Let's see what happens here. So in the 32, up towards turn 1, turns it in, all fine. Gets just a little correction on the way in, and there's no saving that, unfortunately.
There's really not in this car. You know, the best you can do is put both your feet in and lose a whole bunch of time. But then, of course, you're in danger having somebody drive straight up your backside. I've been there myself for a loop. Here we are in the fountain once again with your leaders. Looking here at Haycox, Gaspers, and Naselli. Not too much shuffling. Gaspers, of course, we saw him just a moment ago take that P2 position away from Naselli. And he's managed to hang on to it quite well. Looked like a little bit of a moment there for Haycox just going through that turn there. You know, it falls away. And thank you to that driver for getting out of the way of the leaders. I'm sure the leaders appreciate it as they can continue to race. That is the 999 machine of me while I look it up. Mark Gehan. Thank you so much, Gehan.
Yeah, always good to have good awareness when getting lapped, especially in a single make series as well. A little bit trickier, of course, when you've got multi-class, but especially you got to be aware when you're in a single class series to always make room for the leaders. And Gian did a good job to get out of the way there of everybody as we head into the last corner. Once again, Haycock still holds the lead from David Gaspers. He's really hanging on to this very nicely. Hugh Haycock, I think he knows this is a big opportunity for him in the title race to try and get him cement himself a really nice position going into the last few rounds of this championship. Naselli with a personal best that time. He's the fastest out of the top three, but of course he does have the draft, which will aid him towards turn one. Gasper showing himself in the mirrors on the way towards turn one, but nobody doing anything just yet. We're heading towards that pit stop phase now, about halfway through the race. It'll be just fuel for these guys, but it seems like Gaspers, he's a lot more confident in certain areas of the circuit, but away from Gaspers each time.
Yeah, he seemed to have, Haycock's had a much better hairpin that time around. I thought he seemed to turn in, you know, as I said, you can't be too early and you can't be too late. It's just, just a dime's width where you have to place your car in order to get that hairpin just right. It seemed that Haycock's had it a little bit more dialed than Gaspers. Gaspers looking at the outside of Haycock's car here. Here is Bertoni all over the rear of Arnold. So Bertoni got around Race. And now Bertoni and Arnold are going to battle it out for that fourth position. Race must have had a little bit of a moment or something there. Sorry, I've just picked up that turn of phrase watching Formula One this morning. Here is Gaspers having a look at Haycock's on the inside, although Gaspers himself having a little bit of a wiggle for the rear. So now they're going to go around this left-hander. What will happen when we get to the hairpin? It looks like, wow, Haycock's giving just miles of room for Gaspers to get safely around and then dips into the pits. Okay, so interesting choice there from Haycock's Jack. He just saw Gaspers coming, decided, okay, I'm going to give him plenty of room, and then, what the hell, I'll go in the pits.
Yeah, I think that was a calculated decision from Hugh Haycock. So they took the wide line, which I thought initially was. So yeah, this would be the pass that Bertoni did on Antonio Rice. I think Bertoni was kind of hounding him for a little while, and Bertoni, of course, in Spec 1 moves up a place ahead of Antonio Rice. That won't affect Antonio Rice, of course, because he still leads the Masters standings at the moment. Nonetheless, and he's got a really nice buffer behind him. That moves Bertoni up to the front, but now Gaspers versus Naselli is the battle. But Haycock's, I think initially I thought him going wide was trying to get himself a run out of the last corner on Gaspers, but he made the decision to go early for the pit stop and try and get himself an undercut, and it has kind of worked. He's got himself a little bit of clean air. He's out in front of the Spec 2 leader, Mizurek. That's our newly Spec 2 leader, actually. Mizurek now leads Spec 2 ahead of Simkin. Small buffer up to Van Dormelen. He's got a bit of lap traffic in front of him. Van Dormelen is the next car that is for on-track position. So this could work out for Hugh Haycock if he manages to keep up the pace. But I'm not interested to see what Gaspers and Naselli do, if they respond immediately or they're going to keep out and go long.
Well, you know what's interesting is that you look at a track and you look at a driver like Haycock, who currently has about 7 seconds-ish in front of him. And in this series, we call that clean air. So there is Gaspers into the pits. So Naselli will now inherit the lead. You always love to dip into the pits and see a big old cloud of smoke. There he is, Naselli, hammering along. He himself now has some clean air. He's got a few seconds of track on there, so he will do everything he can, I'm sure, to make up time as Gaspers. We see Bertoni once again. But yeah, so Haycock's down in 9th. And not that many drivers, Jack, have gone to the pits so far. Out of our lead, let's say 20 drivers, only 4 or 5 have gone into the pits at all. So a little bit of an early pit stop for Haycock. We'll see how it develops for him.
Yeah, for the moment it looks like Gaspers has come out in front of Haycock. Not by much though, just under a second he's come out in front. Actually no, Haycock has just done him on the inside. There's the pit exit, and Gaspers has to go wide to avoid a cut penalty. So Haycock does get the job done with the undercut. So really nice job as well. Also, I tell you what, Spec 2 battle for the lead is also a very hot between Mizurek and Simpkins. They're swapping places left, right, and center for that lead. And Spec 2, there they are. Simpkins, the second car in that train, the 377. Your Spec 2 leader is, of course, Mizurek in the 321. And then you have Batley, who's P2 in the Masters standing. So a bit of a mix-up here. But we've got a battle for the overall lead, and we've got the battle for the Spec 2 lead. The one that's most spread out at the moment is the Masters lead. Antonio Rice very much comfortably in front in the Masters one. But there's your two Spec 2 leaders. The Spec 2 championship leaders, there's absolutely really no sign of them at the moment. So good opportunity for a new Spec 2 winner.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something that you mentioned a moment ago as we were seeing Gaspers exit the pit lane there. At the end of when you use yellow lines, and you just mentioned it a second ago, but it goes so far down into turn 1. And if you cut across it, as you said, you do get a penalty. Oh dear, there's Mizurek contacted the inside wall and has gone around, allowing Simpkins to go by, so he will dip into the pits as well. So Simpkins doing a sort of a similar strategy to Haycock's, just having a very bad hairpin and then saying, okay, well, I'm going to turn this into a pit into a pit strategy. I think that was Elson back there dipping into the pits as well, unless my eyes deceive me. But anyway, when these cars come out of the pits, that yellow line up there just seems so long. And when I saw Gaspers drive across it, there it is, just at the bottom of your screen. It seemed to me he turned just the slightest bit early, so he might even have gotten a penalty.
Let's hope not, because it can be quite strict in some places on pit exit. Sorry, Naselli has stayed out quite long here, so Maurizio Naselli does lead this race at the moment. He's 14.3 in front of Bertoni, but the gap back to Haycox, who's his rival, is 33.7 seconds, and I think he's going to keep carrying on here, Maurizio Naselli. So he wants to put less fuel in for this run, it seems. But there's Haycox, and he's actually built the gap over Gaspers. You can see Gaspers in the 17 car, just a second and a bit back from him, but he's done a good job there. Just on that as well, the Spec 2 lead, of course, where we had them peel in to the pit lane. It seems that when they make a mistake in the hairpin, that's the minimal time lost right there, that the pit lane's ready to greet you, just in case you do make that error. So Mizurek took that opportunity, has now peeled in, but it's still Simpkins who leads Spec 2, and he will carry on in 9th place, just behind David Gaspers. But this is now his to lose, really. Simpkins, if he keeps it nice and neat and tidy for the next 15 odd minutes, he will secure himself the Spec 2 win. And we'll wait to see if he can hang on to that. He's got Kenneth Batley, who's the championship leader in the Masters standings, but not for much longer, as Antonio Rice is now up in overall 3rd place. So good job from Antonio Rice right now.
Yes, quite a drive. Well done to him. Antonio, of course, has previously won Spec 2 and got promoted to Spec 1 of the Masters series. So now is running in Masters, but as you can see from his current pace, could easily be running in Spec 1. But instead, Antiques. So the race certainly, oh, Naselli has dipped into the pit lane. Thank you so much, Johnny Grabs, for letting me know. Here he is as we ride on board with him. So we'll see where he comes out. Will be interesting to see how he fares race into the pits as well. There we're looking now at Bertoni, who will shortly inherit the lead of the race. And there he is.
So we wait now to see where Haycox is going to come through. Yeah, so that's front end damage on Haycox's car. Now hopefully that doesn't affect him. It may just be a graphical glitch of some kind, but we'll have to wait to see. Haycox on his way down towards turn. It does look quite beat up on the front end, but Haycox, here he comes round the long right-hander. Where's Naselli? Naselli is out. There's Naselli on the left-hand side. Haycox will carry the speed into turn 1. He will retake the lead into the first corner. Naselli will have to go wide to avoid the cut track, and Gasper slots himself in between the two of them there. But Haycox with a damaged front end, but it doesn't really matter too much right now. He's got the track lead, the overall lead at the moment, but Gaspers is absolutely all over it. And of course we got to keep in mind these guys have got their tires warmed up as well. Naselli will not have the tire temperature just yet. He'll be back in this very shortly. He needs time to get those brakes back up the temperature as well, compared to everyone else. So Haycox back to the net race lead. Gaspers in behind him, and once again this is going to go to the flag between these two, but Gaspers looks like the man with the most pace. Lap traffic coming up as well. That's Adam Bradshaw, Van Dormelen, who's P3, but Gaspers with a lovely run. This could be the move for the lead right now. Inside line for David Gaspers as they head towards the right-hander in the 17 car. No straight line speed really for Hugh Haycox, and David Gaspers now takes the net race.
You could see it when they pulled onto the straight, couldn't you? Gaspers just got a good run on that corner, as you mentioned, and it certainly has panned out for him, but we'll see what Haycox can do over the rest of the race. It does seem to me that his car is suffering just a little bit as he now tucks into the rear of Gasper's machine. So I think we're going to quickly see what happened to Haycox. Well, that's the replay of, Haycox with a big slide into turn one. That's when Naselli was just coming out of the pits there. We will find it if possible. Interested to know what happened to him as we go back to our live picture here. So Gaspers has passed. Gaspers now ahead of Haycox. We saw that pass just a moment ago, and that's Van Dormelen ahead, currently running in P3. Van Dormelen has not pitted yet, nor has Sadro or Bertoni, the two cars ahead. And I think I just saw Gaspers have a little tap of the wall as well, although my eyes do often deceive me, Jack.
Yeah, well, it certainly looks like Gaspers in control. It doesn't seem to be affecting Haycox too much at the moment. It might just be maybe overemphasized. That Van Dormelen, that's for position, so Van Dormelen's well within his right to defend this position in P3. He hasn't pitted yet, but Gaspers is going to have to work for this one. Inside line, he gets a lovely run out of that corner once again, and Haycox will just try and follow him through on the inside here. The toe should help him stay with Gaspers as they come down the straight. Van Dormelen is going to have to probably peel into pit lane now. He's been caught by the overall leaders. He'll drop to about 9th or 10th place after his stop. Naselli follows them through as well, but Haycox is still sticking with him here despite the front end damage. He's still absolutely all over the rear of David Gaspers, almost pushing him through the hairpin, so he's probably having to work very hard to stay with Gaspers with all that front end damage on the right hand side. We'll be able to see now what the toe is going to be like. Usually be very, very strong towards turn one. We can see perhaps just struggling in the straight line, but the corners seem to be okay. You can see slightly defensive from Gaspers as we have a car just emerging out of the pit lane. That's Mitchell is coming out of the pit lane there. But Haycox still able to stick with these guys, and Bertoni still yet to pit out front.
Yeah, well, nor has Sadro. Simpkins and Gradwell haven't pitted, nor have Jackson or Gibson. And Bob Kern is still staying out. So Bertoni not alone in waiting for his pit to come along. There he is, running all by himself. But yeah, Gaspers really does seem to prefer this section of the track where we're looking at Bertoni here. Gaspers does seem to prefer this as his preferred passing ground, doesn't he? He had a couple of looks and then was able to get the pass there done as well. But yeah, as you say, very glad to see Haycox sort of hanging with Gaspers, although no danger of seeing Naselli have a look at the inside. Gaspers seems to me slowly but surely building up the tiniest of gaps, and you can't help but wonder to the pits. He pits out of the lead. There he is. But you can't help but wonder if that damage isn't just taking a fraction of a percent. Here's Sadro, and he will pit as well. So last of our sort of lead group who haven't yet pitted.
Yeah, so that's Bertoni in. He's on his way out of the pit lane. He's going to lose, obviously, a lot of time to these guys. He's not going to be in this battle, but he's going to drop into around where Josh Arnold is on track. But now you can see Naselli. He's been bringing himself back into it, and he's now firmly back on the tail of Hugh Haycox. He took a bit, we got a spinner in turn one. I think that's Meyer in turn one, and it was indeed in the 308 machine. Not good for that man, of course. He's I believe the championship leader in Spec 2 coming into this round, and indeed he is, and he's a long way down compared to our overall Simpkins, who is leading Spec 2 at the moment. But the top three, usual every single week in SRF Weekend Warriors, absolutely glued together, but minus the fourth car of Austin Winner, which we normally see in there.
Yeah, we're missing Winner, Arabian, of course. We're still missing Yang Shilin. We haven't seen much of him this season, but certainly a great driver. We often see him near the front of the field. Taking a look at the inside of Haycox here, and they're going to go too wide. Haycox big slide, manages to keep it out of the wall. Just looking on here, riding on board with Naselli, it looked to me like Haycox had a big slide. Naselli on the brakes, doesn't want to cork up the hairpin too much. And he will now, I'm sure, hope to be under the rear deck lid of Haycox so he can try to make a move into turn 1. And well, he's looking here at the outside. I'm not sure that's going to happen. That's going to be the long way around because the straight does curve to the right here. What is Naselli doing? If not, maybe just trying to cool his car? I don't know. I'm not sure what he's up to, but he's a much faster driver than I am, so I'm sure there's a reason.
Yeah, I think he's ducking out of the toe by the looks of it to not get the slipstream, but Haycox is still staying in there despite that damage, but there's one particular corner he's struggling, and it's that right-hander before we get to the last 3 corners, that kind of back straight, which will be arriving at very shortly. There's not a lot of time left in this race, but Haycox is still staying with Gaspers, but there's one particular corner which will be coming up after this left-hander that Haycox seems to carry it, and I wonder, was that the corner that he clouted the inside wall maybe, and it's maybe knocked his confidence of carrying the speed through it. We're going to look right here. Gasper's very strong through here. Look at that. I see the small gap that Gasper's builds through there. It's enough for him to get away. Haycock stronger that time through the corner. But yeah, you can see Naselli doesn't want to be in that slipstream. Perhaps the pace deficit in Haycock's is very, very large. And I believe when Naselli tried to go up the inside that time, there was actually a tiny tap of contact. So Naselli doesn't want to go for the overtake unless he's absolutely sure he can do it.
Well, quickly, I want to say a shout out to my man, Jeff Fritcher, who I believe at the moment has the fastest lap of the race at a 134.4. Well down into the 134s. I don't think we're going to see a 133. Just casting my eye over the timing tower. There he is, the number 43 machine. Fritcher, well done. Running 9th overall.
Yeah, and Johnny also made it the point that he's actually the car with the least dents on it on the whole track, apart from maybe Gradwell's car. That looks pretty pristine as well. The 909 Army's all over him in this little battle as well, which is for position in the Masters class. But of course, just under 5 minutes to go. It's still David Gaspers with the lead, but he's getting hounded by Hugh Haycox and by Maurizio Naselli. They've got no problems from Bertoni. He's 14 and a bit seconds behind, so no problems from them in that regard. These guys can battle as hard as they want. They're just coming up to the back of Jackson, the 249 machine. He should get out of the way probably shortly, but there's not many laps left to run here. Now, Haycox seems to be sorting that corner out a lot more. Much better run that time from him through the right-hander, but again, is suffering with that straight line speed and is unable to close up to Gaspers. It essentially needs to make the move in a corner rather than on the straight. And again, much better line as they head through towards the last 2 corners. Maybe he thinks about a move here. I can expect a move, perhaps in the last lap right there in that last hairpin. But it seems Haycox has got that last sector absolutely hooked up, and he's keeping with David Gaspers as they cross the line with 3 minutes left to go.
Not too much racing left to go for these leaders. We do have, as usual, lots of battles going on track. Let's look at Burrow, Simpkins, and let's see. West, Simpkins, and Burrow all battling. We're looking at a great battle going on between those drivers. I believe West had an incident earlier in the race. So great to see those drivers doing so well. Burrow, I think, was the car that we saw spun early on lap. For him to be running all the way up in 10th, Burrow. Another good battle going on between Short, Gradwell, and Murakami. They're running 14th, 15th, 16th overall. There they are. All very close together. That's Murakami and the 901 machine there in the rear. So lots of battles going on all over the place. And of course, oh dear, was that Van Dormelen just going around there? I couldn't see. Macarini maybe? Hard to see. No, Van Dormelen's just fine.
Yeah, it's quite hard to tell. There's way too many cars on the circuit at once. trying to work out who's who. We'll get there eventually, but long left and maybe around 2 laps left in this race for these top guys, and Haycox gets a wiggle on through the right-hander. That'll cost him just a bit of momentum. Through the hairpin they go, hopping the curb on the power. Gasper's staying in front for now as they cross the line with about a minute and a half left to run in this race. So they might just sneak across the line for one more lap next time. So it's going to be very tight whether we're going to get another lap, and we should, by just a couple of seconds, get it, but we'll have to keep our eyes on this lead battle because it's going to go right to the flag as per usual in the SRF Weekend Warriors series on Apex Racing. Very nicely negotiated from everyone there. Haycock's much more confident through this sector. You can see closes up visually as they head through the right-hander, and lovely shots here of these cars through Long Beach as he gets up on the rear of Gaspers. He's going to have to be brave on the brakes if he wants to get past Gaspers. Gaspers is controlling this beautifully. Very wide line from Haycock's on the way up to the left-hander. Stays behind Gaspers for now, trying to get a run on him, but it seems to be impossible. The German's doing everything to stay in front before they get to the right-hander now. This is with the corner that he needs to get right. Gaspers a touch wide compared to Haycock's. Now Haycock's with a lovely run on the way up towards the right-hander. He'll get a slipstream as we head into the last few seconds on the clock. Does he go for an overtake? I think he's already thinking about that final hairpin. He needs to sort right up behind Gaspers on the way through. Has to back off a little bit through the left-hander. Gaspers has got to block this. He's lining it up, Haycock. But can he get it done? No. He stays behind as they head into the final hairpin. We might get across the line for just one more here at Long Beach, but it's going to be very, very close whether they're going to make it or not. Checker flag is not coming out just yet, so it seems that we're going to go for just one more as Naselli's going to go for it on Haycock's. He's going to try and get him here for second place. Now we're on the last lap at Long Beach. He got across the line with 3 seconds to go. Haycock couldn't do it. Can Naselli do it?
Unbelievable racing on track, guys. Look at these leaders divided by no more than fractions of a second as we see Naselli now drawing up to Gaspers. Haycock will be kicking himself, I'm sure, for not being able to get that move done, but at least Naselli is saying to himself, okay, here's my chance at last. He first had to catch the leaders, and now we'll be battling Gaspers for the lead of this race. Now remember, Gaspers of course passed Naselli earlier on in the race to take P2. Gaspers currently running, as you see, in the lead of the race. Naselli looks at the outside. I don't think he's going to be able to get anything done, the inside of this turn here. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. We're entering Gaspers' favorite part of the track. We only say that because that's where we've seen him make a couple of passes so far. As Jack pointed out, Gaspers very good at this particular turn here, and Naselli did back off a little bit, I think, relative to Gaspers, but we'll see if Naselli is able to make a pass here. He pulls out. I don't know if he's going to be close enough. Let's see if he tries to make a lunge anyway. He is drawing up with the toe. Nope. Well done there, Naselli looking at the outside. Will Naselli now be able to make something happen in the hairpin? I don't think so. Haycock's, of course, looking himself in a slide and a puff of smoke from Haycock. So I think this is going to be what we see in terms of car order when we pass the start-finish line shortly. It will be Gaspers from Naselli from Haycock's, and what a race it was.
Yeah, lovely job from David Gaspers. Despite all the pressure, he hangs on to win. And how about a dominant victory from Antonio Rice? He will take the victory in the Masters class and retake the championship lead that he lost before. Kenneth Batley, of course, who led into this one, he will take second in that one, second in that class as well. And Spec 2, we're waiting for the 377 machine of Simpkins, who's the highest placed, of course, Spec 2 driver by quite some margin compared to the rest of the order. With the next Spec 2 car is all the way down in 21st place. So Simpkins, Simpkins will come across the line to win Spec 2 at Long Beach, and the championship will change around a little bit in Spec 2. It still remains very close, but it is Simpkins who takes the win in Spec 2. And we wait to see now the last few cars across the start-finish line. It'll be Kenneth Batley who will take second in the Masters. Murakami will take a third place in the Masters standings. Great battle, I think. A great drive from David Gaspers. Despite all the pressure, he managed to keep everybody behind him for basically half the race.
Yeah, every week. Unbelievable. Love seeing it. We're looking here at Bradshaw. And... well, that's Mayer just ahead. So very shortly, we will see cars purposefully running into one another instead of accidentally doing so, as is tradition. Gaspers, who took the win today. Well done. What a race it was. Gaspers from Naselli in P2, thanks to that pass just toward the end of the race there on Haycock's. Haycock's, of course, finishing on the podium, and a great result for him. finishing with a very damaged car. You can't help but think that that might have hurt his chances at finishing higher up, but we got a great race out of it, so no complaints from me. Bertoni's in 4th, and Michael Dobek in 5th. And of course, as Jack was just saying, it's Antonio Race who will take the win today in the Masters, and it'll be Batley and then Murakami in P2 and P3, and in Spec 2 today, it'll be Joost Simkins, the number 377 machine, and followed by Short, I think. And then, right, who will be after Short? Sorry, I just want to get the podium places here. I'm not sure. Sorry, whoever that is. Jackson? Well done, Jackson. Paul Jackson. And thank you, Johnny Grabs.
Yeah, so the Demolition Derby is ongoing in the background at the moment, as is the tradition around here. There's a perfect place for the ramming to occur. It's in that little runoff in the last corner. But here's the last few. There's Paul Jackson, who's second in Spec 2, and Simon Meyer. I tell you what, that's a good recovery from Simon Meyer to take third. Short, sorry, who took second, and then it'll be Paul Jackson in third, Simon Meyer in 4th in Spec 2. So that's couple of course, Simon Meyer, of course, led the championship coming in, and he should maintain that lead, just judging off those initial results for them. So he's recovered well, but there's a couple of big names in this one, namely down at the bottom, Austin Winner, non-finish. Yep,
sorry to see it. Of course, we do get a couple of drop races in the season, so it won't hurt him on points too badly, I shouldn't think. We'll have plenty of great racing to go as the season progresses. Drivers, I just want to remind you, do stop in and have a chat with us. We'd love to have you, and we do have a driver waiting in the waiting area here. It's today's winner. I'll drag him on in if my mouse will work correctly. There we go. David Gaspers, congratulations on your win today. Tell us about your race.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't that exciting for the most part. I mean, in the beginning, I sadly went into Austin. I didn't expect us to brake that early for turn 1, and a slight tap was enough to send him completely wide. After that, I was struggling for pace a little bit in the first few laps, because all the official races and the qualifying session had around 20 to 25 degrees track temp Celsius, and now in the race we had around 45.
Right.
So I wasn't really used to that, and after that it was just being stuck. Since I'm slow out of the last corner, and yeah, then I overtook you, but didn't really matter since pit stops.
Right. Well, that's interesting that the track must have been just a little bit greasier there for you with the increased temperature then. We were watching you come out of your pit stop and wondering if you weren't cutting it a little bit close with the blend line. I was a little bit worried you had picked up a penalty when you came out of the pit.
No, that was fine. I just don't like pit stops in general. I couldn't have taken less fuel, and my stop itself, I was already cutting completely to the inside wall in the pit lane and still lost almost 2 seconds.
Well, you'll forgive me for saying so, but I like seeing that. I like seeing that constraint on the drivers. So I hate to disagree.
Yeah, well, it can be interesting, but in this case, you was just out of a draft, and had he not driven into a wall, I wouldn't have caught him anymore, and the race would have been won for him.
Yeah, we're wondering what happened to him, how he got that damage sort of in the second half of the race.
That left right before the back straight, he touched the wall on the inside on the right part.
Yeah, that will happen.
After that, his car didn't have that much straight line speed anymore, so once I was past him, I was just driving somehow that made sure after that. But yeah, I knew he wouldn't be able to pass me, so just made sure not to hit anything.
Well, you really seem to like having a little pass there. You seem to prefer that to, for example, trying to pass into turn 1, or trying to make a move on the hairpin. And it seemed like you really had the lead into that back straight really dialed. Is that just does that part of the track feel good?
That's the only chance I have over the lap. The last corner, the problem there is if you're close enough to the car in front, you hit him in the corner, and if you stay just so that you won't hit him, the gap is too big out of the corner.
Yeah, it is troublesome. We're just watching the replay there, and we just saw you accidentally get into the rear of Winner's car. I mean, it's unfortunate. You know, you've already said you didn't intend to, nor would we, would we think you ever would. But so it's sad to see that happen. But you managed to turn it into a win today. So I'm sure he'll be back next time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Gaspers, for stopping by to have a chat with us. We're looking forward to seeing you more over the course of the season. Any sort of predictions for the rest of the season?
I think next week is Summit Point. I'm usually good there, track, but yeah, no idea. I don't really care about the championship anyways.
Okay. Well, that's sort of what we heard from Winner when we were talking. We care about it, and we care about seeing you race and seeing you do well. So congratulations on your race today. Today's winner, David Gaspers. And away he goes. Well, Jack, for a guy who just has a lot of great results and a lot of skills, of course, Winner, it's interesting that both of them are so skilled and such great drivers, but when you ask them about the championship, they're like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I think they think that they don't want to care, but they deep down they're kind of thinking about it each time.
Maybe they're having a secret competition to see who can be sort of more modest and nonchalant.
Maybe so, yeah. But I think normally, in that regard, about kind of, I think the Germans would always win in that regard. They'll always find a way. But David Gaspers, I'm just having a look. For anyone that, of course, is part of the iRacing platform, you obviously know about the strength of field. The strength of field here is 3,082. David Gaspers, to make us all feel bad, 9.3k iRating, so ridiculously high. So that shows you the standard that's going on here in the SRF Weekend Wars. Milton Lasselli on 8k iRating, and Hugh Haycock's on 6,000 iRating. So incredibly skilled drivers here. And if you want to keep up to date with all of these guys, then of course make sure to subscribe to the Apex Racing TV YouTube channel. We're here every single week at the exact same time. That's of course 5 to 9 UK time. And if you want to follow us on all the social media, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. That's all at Apex Racing TV on all of those. And of course, make sure to follow the Twitch channel as well. We're broadcasting all the races over on Twitch each week. So hello to everyone who's over there. But if you want to follow us on Twitch and you prefer that, then by all means follow us over there. And but especially the social media, we post clips of all the various championships over on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So keep up to date on that. And if you fancy more racing this evening, then make sure to pop over to the IGP Fun F3 VRS series, which is currently ongoing at Silverstone, and make sure to keep your eye on that. And if you fancy something to watch on a Monday, make sure to keep your eyes on the iRacing Israel series, which is on tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time. So plenty to come. But if you want to keep up to date with us, we're here next week from Summit Point.
Yes, indeed. Cannot wait to be back. And I believe that Jack is going to do a special event to try to boost some of our Twitch viewership. He will be appearing next week from inside a hot tub. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for joining us today at Long Beach. This has been a ball as always. Again, the best sim racing series on the planet, SRF Weekend Warriors, presented by RaceVoice. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I've been Jim Hodgson, joined by Jack Kanan, and of course, Johnny Grabs Grabowski on production. Can't wait to see you next week.